My name is Sarah. I'm 40 years old now, and today I want to tell you my story. It's not an easy story for me to tell, but it's my truth. Sometimes it feels like the weight of my life is too much to carry, but maybe by sharing it I'll find some relief. Maybe someone listening will understand. Let me take you back to when I was 18 years old. I was a quiet, dreamy girl living in a small village. My family was strict, traditional, and believed that a woman's greatest duty was to marry and take care of her husband and children. Love? That was a luxury, they told me. Respect, duty, and family were what mattered. I had dreams back then. Small, fragile dreams. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to study, to live in a big city, to feel alive. But those dreams ended the day my parents told me they had arranged my marriage. His name was Michael. He was 25, a school teacher, and from a good family. My parents smiled as they told me how lucky I was. He's kind, he's stable, he'll take care of you, they said. But all I could think was, what about love? What about me? I met Michael a week later. He was polite and soft-spoken with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He asked me how I was doing, if I liked reading, and if I needed anything. But I didn't answer much. My mouth said words, but my heart was silent. I already knew what was coming. A month later, we were married. The wedding was grand, flowers, music, and hundreds of guests. Everyone said I looked beautiful, but I didn't feel beautiful. I felt like a stranger in my own life. I smiled because I had to, but inside I was screaming. I wanted to run, to shout, to say, "This isn't what I want." But I didn't. I stayed silent. After the wedding, we moved into Michael's house. It was small but cozy. He tried to make me comfortable. He would ask me if I liked the color of the curtains or if I wanted a new chair for the living room. I always said, "It's fine." What else could I say? He was kind, but I didn't love him. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, he said, "Sarah, are you happy here?" I looked at him, startled. Was I happy? How could I answer that? I forced a smile and said, "Yes, of course." He nodded, but his eyes searched mine. "If there's anything you want, just tell me. I want you to feel at home." I nodded, but inside I thought, this will never feel like home. At night I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling. I could hear him breathing softly beside me. I felt trapped in a life I didn't choose. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I was too tired to cry. A year into our marriage, Michael's family started asking about children. His mother would visit and say things like, "It's time for a baby. A child will bring you closer together." Michael would smile and nod, but I felt panic rising in my chest. I didn't want a baby. I wasn't ready. I didn't even know who I was yet. How could I be a mother? One night, I told Michael, "I don't think I'm ready for a baby." He looked surprised but not angry. "Why not?" he asked gently. I'm not ready," I whispered, looking down at my hands. He reached across the table and took my hands. "Sarah, I understand. But my parents, they're expecting it. They keep asking, maybe it's time. I wanted to scream, what about what I want? But I didn't. I nodded, like always. Okay, I said softly. A few months later, I was pregnant. Everyone was thrilled. Michael's mother cried tears of joy. Michael himself was happier than I had ever seen him. But I wasn't happy. I felt like I was sinking deeper and deeper into a life that wasn't mine. During my pregnancy, I avoided mirrors. I couldn't stand to see my reflection. But one day, I caught a glimpse of myself by accident. I stopped and stared. My face was pale, my eyes empty. I looked like a ghost. I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. I placed a hand on my growing belly and whispered, "Who are you? Where did you go?" I wanted to cry, but no tears came. I just stood there, staring, feeling a deep, hollow sadness that I couldn't escape. I gave birth to a baby boy we named James. He was perfect, tiny, soft, and beautiful. When I held him, I felt a flicker of something, a small spark of love. But it wasn't enough to fill the emptiness inside me. 2 years later, we had another child, a girl named Emily. She was just as perfect as James. I loved my children deeply, but I couldn't escape the feeling that I was living someone else's life. Michael and I rarely talked about anything deep. Our conversations became routine. "Did you sleep well?" he would ask in the morning. "Yes," I would reply, even if I hadn't. "Do you need anything from the store?" he would ask in the evening. "No, I'm fine," I'd say, even if I wasn't. I kept everything inside. My sadness, my anger, my longing for a different life. I was too afraid to speak. What would people say if I left? What would Michael's family think? What would my own family think? I couldn't bear the shame. Years passed and my children grew up. One night while they were sleeping, Michael found me sitting in the kitchen staring at nothing. That night was my 39th birthday party. A night that I will never forget was the starting point of my change. He sat down across from me and said, "Sarah, what's wrong? I know you're not happy." I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. The words came pouring out. "I'm not happy, Michael. I haven't been happy for years. I never wanted this life. I never wanted to marry you. I never wanted children. I wanted something different." He looked at me, his face pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was afraid," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Afraid of what people would say? Afraid of hurting you? Afraid of everything." Michael was silent for a long time. Finally he said, "Sarah, I've always known. I thought maybe you'd grow to love me, but I see now that I was wrong." His words broke something inside me. I started sobbing, and for the first time in years, I let myself feel all the pain, all the sadness, all the regret. The next morning, I packed a small bag. I told James and Emily that I loved them and that I would see them every weekend. I hugged them tightly, tears streaming down my face. Michael stood by the door, watching. "Take care of yourself, Sarah," he said. "You deserve to be happy." I nodded, unable to speak. Then I walked out the door and into a world I didn't recognize, a world full of fear, uncertainty, and possibility. It's been a year since I left. I live in a small apartment now. It's not much, but it's mine. I've started painting again, something I loved as a girl. I see James and Emily every weekend, and they're happy. Leaving wasn't easy. There were days when I doubted myself, when I wondered if I had made the right choice. But I've learned that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about taking a step forward, even when you're scared. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm living for myself. And while the future is uncertain, I know one thing for sure. I will never lose myself again. Tell me, what would you do in such a situation? If you want to improve your English by listening to stories, please subscribe us.